faithfully delivering value and exploring great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Corner. Today, we're diving into the book Learning Science, Stanford's Golden Learning Principles. Learning is something everyone knows, but why do some get it right away while others feel lost? Honestly, folks who succeed mostly understand this, knowing how to learn. They use the right methods, making them more efficient, deeper in understanding, and better at remembering. In recent decades, scientists have done tons of research on learning behaviors. Building on fields like cognitive science, psychology, education, and sociology, a new cross-disciplinary research area has emerged. The author of Learning Science, Professor Daniel Schwartz, is a top expert in learning science and the dean of Stanford's Graduate School of Education. Drawing from years of research and practice, Professor Schwartz's team picked 26 key learning methods from thousands of studies, each solid and effective. These methods cover nearly every area of learning science and are super practical. And in the book, Professor Schwartz breaks down how these methods work and how to apply them. Whether you're in the workforce, a student, a teacher, or a parent, you'll find inspiration and ways to tackle any learning challenge. Next, we'll cover key areas: motivation, concepts, understanding, memory, and skill building, picking top methods for each. First up, ways to boost your learning motivation. Learning motivation is the inner drive that powers your learning. When you've got that inner drive, you're more into learning and stick with it even when it's tough. We see it all the time. Parents stressing over their kids' schoolwork, but when they're not watching, kids drag their feet. Adults aren't immune either. It happens a lot with us too. Lots of us make New Year's resolutions to learn more, but come December, it's often a story of, what was I thinking? Truth is, we all want to keep growing, but we fight it tooth and nail. But laziness kicks in, and we bail at the first sign of trouble. So, how do we get kids excited about learning? And how do we build that inner drive to keep growing? In Learning Science, the author lays out multiple ways to boost your learning drive. All right, I'm going to walk you through 3 key methods: learning by teaching, I can do it, and getting hands-on. First up is learning by teaching. Basically, teaching others helps you learn better. Why? Because teaching others sparks a sense of duty, ramping up your motivation big time. Research shows students hustle harder when they're prepping to teach someone. They'll willingly spend almost double the time hitting the books. Not just that, folks grasp things deeper when tutoring versus solo studying. Post-learning tests prove teaching others helps connect the dots and tackle complex problems. Why? Because prepping a lesson forces you to think deep and map out the whole logic. Plus, you got to get ready for any questions that might pop up. But when you're learning solo, it's often just skimming books, doing drills, or cramming answers. But answers usually miss that deep thinking. Learning by teaching can take all sorts of forms. In school, study groups rock. At work, sharing know-how or new insights is teaching to learn in action. Next method to amp up motivation: I can do it. I can do it is all about self-efficacy, believing you've got what it takes. Psych guru Albert Bandura put it, believing in yourself doesn't promise success, but doubting yourself means you'll fail. So, why does self-efficacy matter so much for learning drive? Typically, folks weigh 2 things to get themselves going: what's in it for them, and how likely they are to nail it. Learning's no different. You only get fired up to learn when you see the value and feel you can handle it. Okay, what shapes your self-efficacy? First up, mastery experiences. Times you've succeeded in the past. Take a piano teacher who films students struggling through a new tune, then re-records them after a week. Seeing themselves play smoothly after practice, students notice the change and stick with lessons way more. When you take it step by step, glance back at how far you've come, and you'll keep going. That's mastery experience in action. Another factor that affects self-efficacy is vicarious experience, meaning seeing others succeed. Researchers did an experiment. They told stories about scientists to 2 groups of students. To the first group, they described, before achieving success, How scientists faced difficulties, bravely challenged them, and persevered, helping students understand that success doesn't come easy. While to the other group, they only talked about the scientists' achievements. The results showed that students who heard about the struggles had more positive attitudes towards learning and ultimately achieved better outcomes. When realizing that the path to success is inevitably filled with obstacles, people become more courageous, face difficulties, are more motivated, and persevere. The third method to spark learning motivation is hands-on creation. Marx said that two great forces shape personality. One is possession, the other is production. On one hand, we become who we are by absorbing nutrients, ideas, resources from our surroundings, which is possession. On the other hand, whether through abstract ideas or concrete products, we try to create and express ourselves in the world. Then we contribute our unique elements into the flow of humanity for others to possess, like cooking a dish, writing a poem, drawing an illustration, coding a program, or writing an article. These are all about creating and producing shareable outcomes. In hundreds of different interest areas, researchers surveyed people about 25 types of satisfaction from interests and ranked them by importance. They found that the top satisfaction was reaping the fruits of one's own efforts. And they call this drive creative autonomy. So, why does hands-on creation boost learning motivation? This is because the outcomes of creation naturally lead to reflection, like what worked and what was futile. At the same time, people enjoy sharing their creations with others. This brings feedback like which creations are popular and which are disliked. Self-reflection and others' feedback bring new challenges. This motivates us to learn and explore solutions, then enter a new cycle of creation. At the MIT Media Lab, to inspire students' creative autonomy, they provided them with a graphical programming language. Scratch is not only easy to start with, but also has rich multimedia resources. With Scratch, learners can design interactive multimedia content and games, easily seeing the fruits of their efforts. Plus, Scratch has an online community where students can share their creations and give feedback. These posts and comments inspire students to set new goals and challenges. So, hands-on creation naturally forms an upward learning spiral that pushes continuous self-improvement. Each creation's success also builds self-efficacy, we mentioned earlier, while the creative cycle sparks interest that further fuels motivation. We've covered 3 motivation boosters: learning by teaching, I can do it, and hands-on creation. Next, methods to deepen conceptual understanding. We know learning should go deep, not just scratch the surface. But how? The book offers several deep understanding methods. I'll introduce 3: self-explanation, analogical reasoning, and contrasting cases. First is self-explanation. To grasp it, we need to understand mental models. A mental model is your understanding of how something works. For example, read this: a frog sits on a log and a fish swims beneath it. Later, if asked, did you read that a fish swam below the frog? Studies show many say yes, but actually the text implied rather than stated this. Why does this happen? Because you remember not the exact words, but your understanding of them. That's the mental model you constructed. In simple cases like this, model building happens automatically, but complex learning requires conscious effort to build complete mental models. Like when new to a city, you need GPS to avoid getting lost. But as you explore more places, your mental map refines until you have a complete bird's eye view in your mind. Self-explanation means actively building complete mental models for what you're learning. The quickest way is to explain the material to yourself out loud. For example, when reading, if you want to really get it, try this trick. Even if you understand every word, putting it in your own words isn't easy. Only when you can explain it in your own language does it truly become yours, making the mental model clear and complete. That's self-explanation.
What makes it great? It exposes gaps and confusions in your understanding. Spotting the problem is half the battle. Then you fill and fix it.
The second method to boost understanding is analogical reasoning. Quick question. Flood is to water droplet. Which of these is similar? First option, each is to wave. Second, heavy rain is to puddle. Third, mudslide is to gravel. At first glance, beach to wave or rain to puddles seem similar because they involve water, but actually mudslide to gravel shares the deep structure with flood to droplet. Both show how harmless things can cause disaster through accumulation, a qualitative change. This shows analogies help us find common principles in seemingly different things. It also tells us learning from two examples beats one for spotting deep patterns. In one study, students solved a tumor radiation problem. The problem: to destroy deep tumors, you need strong radiation, but it kills healthy cells too. But if you weaken radiation to spare healthy cells, the tumor survives. What to do? Solution principle: disperse forces, then concentrate on target. Specific fix: doctors can aim multiple weak rays from different angles at the tumor simultaneously.
Results showed only 18% solved it without understanding the principle or analogical examples.
Faithfully delivering value and exploring great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Corner. Today we're diving into the book Learning Science, Stanford's Golden Learning Principles. Learning is something everyone knows, but why do some get it right away while others feel lost? Honestly, folks who succeed mostly understand this. Knowing how to learn, they use the right methods, making them more efficient, deeper in understanding, and better at remembering. In recent decades, scientists have done tons of research on learning behaviors. Building on fields like cognitive science, psychology, education, and sociology, a new cross-disciplinary research area has emerged. The author of Learning Science, Professor Daniel Schwartz, is a top expert in learning science and the dean of Stanford's Graduate School of Education. And drawing from years of research and practice, Professor Schwartz's team picked 26 key learning methods from thousands of studies, each solid and effective. These methods cover nearly every area of learning science and are super practical. In the book, Professor Schwartz breaks down how these methods work and how to apply them. Whether you're in the workforce, a student, a teacher, or a parent, you'll find inspiration and ways to tackle any learning challenge. Next, we'll cover key areas: motivation, concepts, understanding, memory, and skill building, picking top methods for each. First up, ways to boost your learning motivation. Learning motivation is the inner drive that powers your learning. When you've got that inner drive, you're more into learning and stick with it even when it's tough. We see it all the time, parents stressing over their kids' schoolwork, but when they're not watching, kids drag their feet. Adults aren't immune either. It happens a lot with us too. Lots of us make New Year's resolutions to learn more, but come December, it's often a story of, what was I thinking? Truth is, we all want to keep growing, but we fight it tooth and nail. But laziness kicks in, and we bail at the first sign of trouble. So, how do we get kids excited about learning? And how do we build that inner drive to keep growing? This precise discernment ability is honed through years of experience. If we aspire to excel in certain areas, well-designed contrasting combinations can help us achieve this while saving significant learning time. For example, when kids confuse similar-looking Chinese characters, instead of repeatedly copying one character, which takes time and effort with poor results, it's better to contrast similar characters together, like grouping the characters for curtain, mook, dusk, admire, mook, and solicit donations, mook. By contrasting differences, children can more accurately grasp each character's features and avoid confusion. Now, in short, learning what something is also involves learning what it isn't. Contrasting combinations place subtly different items side by side, helping learners develop eagle-eyed discernment and precision. 3.
We've now covered three concept-enhancing methods: self-explanation, analogical reasoning, and contrasting cases.
Next, 3 methods to boost memory: elaboration, excitement, and getting sleep. First is elaboration. Our brains have 2 memory systems: working memory and long-term memory. Working memory holds information currently being processed, like computer RAM, with temporary storage. When the task is complete, this information gets discarded. Long-term memory acts like a hard drive, storing information indefinitely. When solving problems, the brain retrieves long-term memories into working memory. Human long-term memory capacity is cosmic in scale. Lifelong information gets stored, but storage doesn't guarantee retrieval. Memory is the ability to retrieve the right long-term memory at the right time. How to improve this? Link new information to what you already know. For example, to remember a Bank of China password, 194,996, connect it to familiar China-related facts. The first four digits represent the founding year, 1949. The last two relate to territory size, 9.6 million square kilometers. When you need the password later, recalling 1949 and 960 will trigger the memory. That's the elaboration method, building a bridge between the password and existing memories, like 1949 and 1960. Building that bridge boosts recall. Without elaboration, new info gets stored but isn't linked, making retrieval harder. It's like finding a file in an organized archive versus a messy pile, way easier. Any tricks for effective elaboration? In an experiment, groups read and memorize sentences. Group 1 read, "A tall man bought a bag of crackers." Group 2 read, "A tall man bought a bag of crackers on sale." Group 3 read, "A tall man bought a bag of crackers from the top shelf." Later, they filled adjectives into incomplete sentences. For example, adjective man bought a bag of crackers. Group 1 recalled tall accurately 42% of the time. Group 2 had on sale added, unrelated to height. Their tall recall accuracy dropped to 22%. Group 3's top shelf created logical height link. Recall soared to 74%. When people created their own accurate links, recall hit 91%. That's the key trick. Memory networks are complex but simple in principle. Connected info triggers each other. Elaboration boosts recall probability this way. The second memory booster is excitement, a state where heart races, focus sharpens, and mood soars. Why does excitement enhance memory? Biologically, stimulation releases adrenaline and cortisol to the amygdala, boosting learning and memory. That's why exciting events stick in our minds better than dull ones. So how can we harness excitement to boost learning? There are many ways to spark excitement. Here are some common methods. First method, social interaction. People perform better with an audience. This is called social facilitation. For example, studies show cyclists pedal faster when riding with peers. Second method, actively creating excitement. Caffeine mimics excitement physiologically, which is why coffee helps many people study better. Exercise is another way. Though cognition dips during activity, post-workout learning sees a temporary spike in focus and comprehension. But two important caveats when using excitement. First, learning benefits depend on changes in excitement levels, not absolute intensity. If you're amped all day, it won't boost learning. Second, excessive excitement hurts performance. Moderation is key. The third memory enhancer, getting sleep. We know sleep matters. Without it, we're sluggish and unfocused, but many underestimate its power. Sleep doesn't just recharge us, it's crucial for learning. Researchers found a fascinating pattern. After heavy learning days, brainwave signals during sleep intensify, but after lazy days like sunbathing all day, these signals weaken. These wave patterns also appear in predictable brain regions. If you learned exercise routines during the day, motor cortex regions show stronger sleep waves at night. So while your body rests, your brain replays the day's learning. Never truly sleeping. Vast neuron networks collaborate, switching between activation and rest states. This activity physically reshapes neurons. Neurons grow new dendritic spines, strengthening communication. One way your brain builds new knowledge. While you sleep, your brain tirelessly transfers new learnings into long-term memory. In one experiment, participants memorized word pairs, each group hinting at a theme word. For example, one group included night, dark, coal, all related to black. Later, researchers asked participants to recall the words. If participants spontaneously said the theme word black, it showed they'd connected the word's essence to the hidden theme. Those who slept between memorizing and recalling were more likely to subconsciously say the theme word. This shows sleep integrates new knowledge with existing understanding, achieving true mastery. Sleep's significance mirrors fairy tale scenes.
Like shoemaking elves working while the cobbler sleeps.
While you dream, neurons silently build memory and insight, all without conscious effort. We've covered 3 memory boosters: elaboration, excitement, and sleep. Finally, 2 skill-building methods: participation and deliberate practice. First is participation. Soviet psychologist Lev Vygotsky noted, "What children achieve through cooperation today, they can accomplish alone tomorrow." This led to his influential concept, the zone of proximal development, where skill growth has 3 stages. First stage, difficulty zone. Tasks can't be completed even with assistance, like a 3-year-old failing to ride a bike, despite adult help. Second stage, zone of proximal development. Can't succeed alone but thrives with minimal support. For example, a 5-year-old using training wheels to balance and ride. Training wheels enable both cycling joy and skill practice, like braking and steering or watching road conditions. Third stage, piece of cake zone. Independent mastery without support. Back to the bike example. After practicing various skills, the child can now ditch training wheels, master balance, and start unlocking
More advanced cycling skills, participation.
This method means finding the right support when learners are in their zone of proximal development to help them take that crucial first step. Kids using training wheels to learn cycling is classic participation method. It's like using temporary supports when building a bridge to hold unfinished sections. Once the bridge stands on its own, the supports come off. This approach works for learning any skill. For example, when kids start piano, to help them enjoy playing while building skills, parents can play left-hand parts to help maintain rhythm. Similarly, in surfing, coaches help beginners spot waves and give board pushes so they learn balance at the perfect moment. The second skill-building method is deliberate practice. Unlike participation for beginners, this is for those with foundation wanting improvement. Deliberate practice isn't general repetition. It's intensely improving specific sub-skills to elevate overall performance. Say you want better basketball skills. General practice means more games, but you'll hit a plateau. Then focus on specifics: shooting accuracy, footwork, or stamina training. This targeted practice lifts your entire game. That's deliberate practice, also known as intentional practice. People often think masters achieve greatness through innate talent, but research proves expertise comes mostly from deliberate practice. Chess masters perfectly recall piece positions, yet fail with random setups. Their memory works only for logical games they've analyzed thousands of times. Talent has minimal impact compared to hard work. It's really about deliberate effort. The gap between masters and ordinary people? Just massive time invested in consistent, deliberate practice. Okay, that covers our 2 skill-building methods: participation and deliberate practice. That concludes the book's core content. Quick recap. Across learning science's 4 key areas, we introduced signature methods to boost motivation, teach others, build self-efficacy, or create tangible outcomes, to deepen understanding, self-explain, use analogies or contrast cases, to enhance memory, elaborate, harness excitement, or prioritize sleep, to sharpen skills, provide scaffolds for beginners, and targeted deliberate practice for advancement.
Learning is lifelong. Keep growing to thrive in our fast-changing world.
Truly effective methods make your efforts exponentially rewarding. All right, that's our exploration of Learning Science, Stanford's Golden Principles. Find show notes below the audio. Until next time.